That's fine. Haven't started yet. We will be starting in a while. That's why you probably don't hear anything. So I'm just waiting for one more minute for others to join, and then inshallah we'll start. Oh, greetings from Bahrain. Greetings from Saudi. Joining the webinar. Good evening to everyone. I hope it's not late in other parts of in other countries. So today we have Miss Leanne Fatih, who's going to be presenting on Google Bard. Miss Leanne is a senior associate working as a project manager and site architect for Saudi Entertainment Ventures. She is a PMP certified, where she leverages her expertise to design spaces that accommodate diverse needs, seamlessly blending functionality with aesthetics. Her commitment to inclusivity extends beyond physical barriers, promoting mental and emotional well-being through design solutions. Ms. Leanne, I give you the floor to go over your presentation.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much. I appreciate everyone for taking the time. I'll start my presentation, and just to kind of give you guys a brief, I don't know if you guys have read this, but I said right here, this presentation was actually made with assistance of AI tools. So for this presentation, I actually use Google Bard, and I also use Canva.
Leanne, I don't think we can hear you if you're talking.
Oh, so sorry. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. So let's just start again. With this presentation, I don't know if you guys noticed, but this presentation is actually made with the assistance of AI tools. So I actually use Google Bard for this presentation, and I also use Canva. So let's talk about Bard. It's going to help you with anything you want. So for writing, brainstorming, coding, personally, I kind of use it for recipes and cooking. It helps a lot, especially if you are meal planning. But before I start and go ahead with telling you how to use Google Bard, I kind of just want to tell you what is a bard. So in the Celtic century, so 700 BCE to 400 CE, it was more of storytellers. They used to bring their instruments and go to crowds and tell them and sing to them. In the middle of medieval Europe, they actually used to be poets, musicians, people that write songs. However, in modern usage, it's referred to as any poet, storyteller, anyone that's really expressing their words but using poems. So let's talk about Bard's superpowers. Each of those bullet points, I'll kind of give you like a brief example. I've screen recorded my screen, and I've actually used some examples to kind of show you in real time how to use Google Bard. So let's start. And before we start, before actually asking Bard anything, try to gather all the relevant information. Try to define your goals. Try to have some kind of, at least a sentence or a question of what you want them or what you want Bard to ask. You have to kind of also tell Bard and talk to it kind of like a kid. So you're going to have to tell it to what kind of format you want it. Do you want it to be formal, informal? Do you want a script? Do you want a poem? Do you want a rhyming poem? And this is the first thing if you guys open Google Bard. And just so that let you guys know, Google Bard is actually for free. All you have to have is a Gmail. So, and if you don't have one, just create a Google email and you'll have this for free. So let's start with the left side. right here, you actually have your history, so your past prompts, and it will kind of give you an auto-generated title, so you guys can also look through them. Right here is actually where we have the response box. Right here is actually where you have a picture. So I'll show you an example of how you can actually upload a picture on Google Bard and tell it to give you a caption, for example, for Instagram. Right here is where you actually enter your question. So in your search bar, you kind of use it like you would with Google search. So rather than actually going to Google search, you come here and you talk to it. So you're talking to the AI tool. And I will be referring to something as prompt. And prompt is what Google uses as what you want it or what the questions are. Right here on the right side, we have refresh sample prompts. So what this is right whenever you go into Google Bard, it will give you kind of examples to kind of let you explore. So right here is actually where these prompts actually change. And right here is if you actually want to ask it something very long and you just want to voice to text, and you can send it right here. So I asked it a question. So I just want to kind of show you how it will look like after the question. So right here, those three little bars is actually how you can hide your history. So like here, I told you guys can see the history and past prompts. If you click on those three bars, it will actually hide it. So you have a more clear page, for example. Right here is where you kind of have this grayed out section, and this is going to be your prompt or your question. This is obviously the answer. And this is also where you upload, where you can also go back and edit your prompt. Let's say you asked a question and then you forgot to add something to the question. You can just click on this pencil tool and you can edit it. Or you can just tell it, no, you know what, I don't like this answer, so let's regenerate. So this is just a couple tips of how you interact with Bard. Like I told you, it's actually it's kind of like you're talking to someone, but you have to be very clear and very simple. So you have to also be patient with rewriting your prompts or figuring out what's the best way to ask the question. Also to consider, AI is new. Even though we've heard of so many different AI websites, at the same time, you still have to talk to Bard like a kid. You have to explain everything that you want in details because Bard doesn't know what you want. So ask it as much and be as detailed as possible. Also use relevant keywords. So throughout this presentation, I'll also give you some keywords that you can ask. Also for prompts, if you think that this is not the right answer, you can refine your prompts. And this also needs just a little bit of patience and reworking. If you don't get the answer you want, try to reword it. Try to find a different way to ask it or explain more. But more importantly, try to have fun and experiment. So let's start with one of the first examples is text generation. And this is probably what you guys know of this. So let's say, for example, some of the prompts. For essays, I can tell it to summarize key points, and I can actually give it the link of that certain article, let's say, and I can tell it to expand and write a well-structured essay. It will actually do the entire thing for you. For the example that I guys showed you just a couple of slides ago, I actually asked this question. For emails, it can actually help you write a follow-up email. So you can just copy the email that was sent to you, and you can tell it to politely remind them or to politely, or if you don't want politely, you can just ask how to follow up with an email or anything really that has to do with emails. You can ask it to write poems, or you can even ask it to translate. So you can even do a short translation of a greeting to any language, or you can translate different articles. Also, one thing that's great about Google Bard, and honestly the reason I prefer it over ChatGPT, is because it has access to internet. I don't know if you guys tried ChatGPT, but if you guys try to give it a link to something, it tells you it doesn't have access to internet. However, with Bard, you actually do. So you can definitely take advantage of that. So let's start with this video. Here, sorry. So right here, I asked a question, and this is kind of what it will look like. It will take a couple minutes, and you'll have this symbol until it generates the entire answer for you. You can look through it, read it, and in some times it has the regenerate answer, and sometimes it actually gives you different drafts. So you guys can click on here, right at the top, right underneath your question, and you can actually see the different drafts that come up with this one answer or one question. Also, you can read through it, and then if you like it, let's say you like the third draft, you can even tell it to expand more on it. Or in this case, I asked to make draft 3 shorter. So what it did, took a couple minutes and actually made it shorter. So that's the fun part of it. Other things that can actually Google Bard can help you with is brainstorming. So for example, you have a prompt that you can tell it what are the emerging technologies, and let's say for my field, architecture, leverage to revolutionize the way we work. We can also ask it to design a product from a perspective of your pet. So in my case, it would be my cat. Or you can even ask it silly questions like, what would Cinderella's glass slipper be made of, but in a tech-driven world? And it will give you the craziest answers. So again, I screen recorded and I kind of wanted to show you. So in this case, I wanted to see how it would be to design a product from the perspective of my lazy house cat. Like again, it sometimes can be fast, sometimes it can be very slow, but you just have to wait until it loads. And after it gave me all the different, the entire question, I can read through it. I can even copy it all. Or I can just go again. I don't like it. I can go to draft 2, also read through it. If I like it, like this, for example, he says, here's the perfect plan, which is very cheesy, but it also has its own personality. So that's also the fun thing about Google Bard. It's not so formal until you tell it to be formal. Other things you guys can also use Google Bard with is content creation. So some examples of the prompts is, I have a flower business and I want a theme and a color palette for my Instagram account. Or you can tell it to help you write a catchy Instagram caption for an image that will grab people's attention and maybe even drive engagement. And also, since Google Bard has access to the internet, you can tell it, or you can ask it, what are the top hashtags in Saudi Arabia this month? So you could also use those hashtags in your own posts, for example. Or you could tell it to do something fun and develop a board game based on characters and themes of Harry Potter, for example. So for this example, I told it to help me write a catchy Instagram caption for this image and drive engagement. And what I just asked, and like I said, the symbol, picture symbol right next to the question, you can click it and upload it. So that's what I did. And that's the answer it gave me. It gave me more than just a couple of answers. And again, you can flip through the drafts, read through them, see what you like, what you don't like. And if you still don't like any of the 3 drafts, you can ask it to write more captions, but in French, for example. And it will actually write the captions for you. Or let's say, for example, I wanted to write these captions in French, but I also wanted to see the translation. I didn't want to just post anything and not knowing really what it means. So it actually did So it gave me the captions and I wrote down the translations right after it. So in this case, I didn't like it, so I just told it to regenerate it, and it did. Other examples you can use or prompts are for coding and technical assistance. I don't have a huge background in coding, but I know it works. For example, I wanted to ask, what's the functionality of this code snippet in layman's terms? Or you can ask it, can you suggest potential debugging fixes for an error message? Or in this case, for the example that I'm going to show you, I asked it, your PC ran into a problem with a blue screen and a sad face. What does it mean? And so I waited a couple minutes and then it gave me actually a very detailed breakdown of what it means and actually how to solve it. So in this case, I told it to give me more easy ways to find the root cause or the root issue. And again, it gave me different ways. It told me different solutions or what I have to do in the steps. And also, as you will notice whenever you ask it prompts, it will give you additional tips. Other prompts that I'm sure will help many of you, at least I use it at work a lot, is corporate documentations. I cannot express how easy and fast Bard can give you the entire document filled out, especially if you already kind of give it a good background or you tell it the scope. So some of the prompts examples are to let it generate a draft meeting agenda for the topics, and you can tell it, this is the topics and this is what I want for the outcomes. You can even ask to write an executive summary for a project proposal. So you can just copy and paste the project proposal and tell it to highlight the key benefits, for example. You can also ask it to identify potential risks for a project plan and suggest mitigation strategies. So this goes to project management. It can help you with literally anything. Also, one thing, it can help you create diagrams and charts. So I asked it create a Gantt chart of, let's put up any project name, or you can put the brief in here. And you can ask it to, based on the task, dependencies, give me estimated durations. Or you can even tell it or ask it to write a concise and informative execution summary, and you can copy and just paste the report in Google Bard. So for this example, I asked it to analyze a Gantt chart. And what I did was just from the picture symbol, just uploaded the Gantt chart, and it actually gave me a really accurate summary of the chart. And so what you could do, you could actually use this to your advantage. It doesn't do, to let you know, it doesn't do diagrams. It will not create it for you. However, it will give you the steps of actually how to do it or how a diagram would look like. It will also give you examples of, let's say, if you ask it what's a Gantt chart look like, it will give it to you. And it will, if you ask it to explain it, it will explain it. You can even ask it to go shopping for you if you want. So some additional tips, and these actually helped me a lot. There's two things. So on the left side, this is what I have as, let's say, control tricks. So sometimes whenever you ask a prompt, let's say, for example, and it starts generating an answer for you, if you're reading the first couple lines and you realize, oh my God, no, this is definitely not what I want, you can just type in stop and it will stop generating. Or you can just simply tell it to try again. It didn't work this time, or the drafts were not enough for you. Or you could also put summarize this, and you can just copy or paste the link, or if you actually have the document, copy the document and paste the text in the search bar. You can just simply say translate to language and it will translate whatever you give it. Also, if you guys are somewhat lost at the beginning, or if you would want a detailed list of the features, you can just on the command, the search bar, you can just put help and it will actually explain all of Google Bard for you. Also, if you guys just want to explore, and I suggest exploring at the beginning, just have fun with it and see what it could do. Rewrite, reword your prompts. But at the beginning, you can also just ask, what can you do? And it will give you kind of a brief, and it will also show you a video on YouTube of how to do it. On the right side, I kind of also want to talk about the tricks and the fun things about Google Bard. So you can actually use emojis, and I cannot express how fun it is to use emojis with Google Bard. You don't really have that with ChatGPT, like it doesn't really understand. But with Google Bard, it's programmed to actually understand emojis. So let's say, for example, I'm sad and I want to write a sad poem. If you give it a sad emoji, it will actually turn the poem even more sad. Or it will actually understand that this emoji means this emotion, for example. So other things too, you could do personalized prompts. So you can tell it to write short stories or long stories. You can ask it to write poems. You can even ask it to write haikus or just simple letters. And the fun thing about these prompts are, or the theme and the tone of these prompts and the formats, is that if you ask it to write you a poem and then you decide, you know what, I don't want a poem, I want a haiku, you can just ask it within the same thread. You can just ask, actually turn this poem into haiku, and it will. So this is just a kind of short video of just experimentation. So just experimenting with you guys. I kept regenerating until I found a prompt that I liked. So for this example, I chose under create. I just chose this prompt out of office message. And right when I clicked it, if you guys notice, I will kind of go back here. It just already wrote the entire prompt for me. So it wrote this, I'm writing an out of office message, and here's what I want to say. And this is kind of also a good way to really see how Google prompts are worded. So and you can just follow that same format as well. So if you can see, they use dashes or like bullet points. So it says, I'm out of the office, I'll be back on this day. And then the end of the prompt says, transform that into an email suitable for it. So I just said, you know what, let's just see how it is. And you can also always just edit your questions or edit any information that they gave you. And after waiting for a couple of minutes, you actually get a good short email that you can eventually copy and paste. Or you can copy, and I always recommend to edit, because at the very end of each prompt or each answer, sorry, that Google Bard has, it will always tell you some notes. It will always give you more options. It will always give you additional information or additional tips. So I recommend to always read Google Bard's answer. Try not to just copy and paste it, especially if you're sending emails or anything of that sort. So I wanted to continue. I wanted to say, I wanted to add that I'll be on vacation with limited access to my phone or to my laptop, for example. So after a couple of minutes, I edited the email, and it gave me, again, several drafts that you can find here. And it usually gives you 3 drafts. And if you don't want it, you could always regenerate. But in this case, right here on the 3 dots, you actually have copy. So you can just copy all the text, all the answer that Google Bard gave you, or you can actually report. So if there's answer that's wrong or so on, you can always report it. And then in this little symbol here, you can share and actually export the Google Bard prompt with the answer. So you can share it to, let's say, different emails. You can actually click on it and it will draft it in Gmail for you. So it even gives you less time for you to worry. So I asked it to draft it to me for on Gmail, and it did. But like I said, always make sure to read the entire email and tick off anything or tick off all the notes or additional tips that Bard gives you at the very end. That is all from my end. I'm gonna let the rest of this time really just focus on if you guys have any questions or suggestions. And at this time, I think you guys would be getting a poll to see if you guys want to actually have a hands-on workshop, um, or hands-on experience.
All right. Thank you so much, Leanne. Yes, go ahead. If you guys have a poll, let me see if I can pull it up. And I've launched it, so go ahead. Please place your answers if you guys would like to have a workshop on Google Bard. However, Leanne, we do have some questions from some users. Let me ask you the questions that have been posted. So the first
Yes,
question is,
please.
what are the key powerful features for ChatGPT?
So mostly for ChatGPT, it was kind of one of the first websites that were launched. So that's why you find it to be a lot more common or popular amongst this. However, ChatGPT also now has ChatGPT 4. I'm not really that familiar with it, but I know it does have some access to Wi-Fi, and it also has some image generation. However, with Google Bard, like I said, it kind of just is your extension of your Google search, but you're going to treat Google Bard more like you're talking to a person, and specifically, honestly, a kid, because you have to be very detailed, and you have to just like put just a couple more time, a couple more minutes of just you really explaining to get the right answer.
Okay. The second question is, do we have a Google Bard application for phone?
Sadly, we don't. What I do on my phone is I just have Google Chrome on my phone, so I just have it on a tab. Sadly, they still didn't come up with an application.
Okay.
But
I
you
don't
can use Google Bard on any browser. It doesn't have to be Chrome. It can be Safari. It can be anything, honestly.
Okay. So does Bard have any add-ins or plugins for a specific domain?
Right now, it really doesn't include any plugins per se. There are still, it's not really the beta version anymore. It's a little bit upgraded more than the beta version. But no, sadly, there isn't any plugins that I'm aware of.
Okay. All right. So I don't think we have any more questions, and I do see the poll being responded to. So I guess we'll just wait, and we still have time. So if anyone has any more questions, we're still here. If anyone would like to ask.
Yeah. Or if you guys have any suggestions on the kind of workshop that you guys would like me to give.
Okay, so someone's asking about, do we have an Arabic version of Bard?
Yeah, you can actually talk to Bard in Arabic and it will respond to you, and it will also give you the response in Arabic. So, for example, a couple of weeks ago, I actually wrote an email in English, and then I realized I actually have to send the email in Arabic. So I just copied my email and I posted it on Bard, told it to translate it, and it did. And all my following questions were actually all in Arabic. So it responds also in Arabic.
Okay, we've got more questions coming up. So the other question that we have is, does Bard have a PMO tool to utilize?
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Meaning, can we use Bard for project management?
Yes, of course. Like one of the examples that I showed, you could ask any PMO question honestly to Bard, and it will answer it. So you can ask it to write you a timeline, or you could also ask it to um, give you a table, and it will actually give you a table, and you can easily export it into Google Sheets, which is just the Google version of Excel. So you could also do that.
Cool. Okay, so we also have another question. So now this is a security-based question, Leanne. So they're asking the question is, do companies allow using AI tools such as Bard, ChatGPT, etc.? The reason being asked is, as soon as our information is provided to the tool, that information becomes public. So what are the security concerns behind that?
I would consult honestly your company on these. However, I wouldn't recommend, or I personally don't ask any confidential information on Google Bard. If I needed to write me an email, I'll just say company one, company two. A lot of try not to, especially if a lot of information is confidential. I wouldn't trust it completely, even though it is private for you, which means that if you log in into your account, your Gmail, you'll have your history saved and you can delete it as well. And it's not really shared to the public. So you can ask whatever you want on your own account and no one could really see your questions or the answers or so on. But in terms of just each company really is different. For example, I am fortunate that my manager actually um, encourages us to use AI tools, especially since we already have it at hand. Why not use it?
Right. Does Google Bard save all conversations and is it retrievable?
Yes. I'm not sure how many um, chats or history it saves, but it almost saves all your history. And you can start different answers and you can follow up with the answers and so on. And you can always go back to your history and look at all the different questions that you asked. Or if you want, you can also go back and delete them.
Okay. And do we have a subscription fees for Bard?
No, it is completely free.
Okay, that's good. All right, so there's this one electrical engineer. He tries to use Bard to do some calculations, but it always gives him incorrect calculations. Is there any kind of limitations on calculations when using Bard?
It shouldn't honestly have any difficulties doing the calculations. I know a couple people have used it for coding and they say it actually works out for coding. I know also it does, any basic calculus, algebra, all that, it should do it. I'm not sure, maybe you need to give it more information in the question or on whenever you're asking the prompt. Or try to regenerate it. If it's still giving you the wrong answer, then I would actually go and report it. And Google actually reaches back pretty fast and they'll ask you more on how they could help you.
Okay. So we also have, can Bard compare between two documents and observe the differences?
You can't really upload any documents. You can only upload pictures. However, you can just simply ask it. You can tell it to compare document one and document two, and just within the same search bar or like prompt that you're asking, just copy and paste document one and document two, and it will actually compare the two documents for you. But sadly, you can't upload any Word document, for example, or anything like that.
Can we use Bard to generate presentations?
No, sadly. What I did for this presentation, what I meant by I used Bard, I actually asked it to just give me the slide content and what I wanted this presentation to be. And then I went ahead and it told me like slide one, we suggest you writing this, slide two, slide three, and so on. And what I did was just copy and I edited the information that was given to me. I do have to say a good amount I didn't use or I didn't feel like the need to use. But you can use Google Bard with an additional website, Canva, and Canva actually generates templates and presentations for you. For example, for Canva, I went and I asked it to generate a presentation that is going to be talking about AI tools. So these right here are these little symbols. They're all from Canva. So one thing I could do in the next workshop is actually to go with people and show you guys how to use Google Bard with Canva and how to really create a presentation just from one prompt.
Oh. All right, thanks. I don't see any more questions.
Great, thank you.
Leanne, if
So,
people have questions, sorry, go ahead. Hello? Leanne?
oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I was saying if people have questions, how can they reach out to you if people have additional questions to ask? What medium?
I will write my email for you guys right here. So this is my email for whoever wants to reach out or has any further questions. Also, I'm available in my LinkedIn. It's just my first name and my last name.
I'll share I have your permission, can I share your LinkedIn profile with them?
Yes, you have my permission.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna post it over here. So shared it. Okay, so I think we do. I'm looking at some of the questions. Okay, so there's a question. Is there a user guide for Bard? Like if somebody wants to learn how to use Bard, is there a user
Yeah,
guide?
so if you actually type in what can you do, or if you can type in help, it will actually give you somewhat of a user guide. It will also give you YouTube videos to watch of just really how to use Google Bard, or just any further additional tips.
Okay. All right.
Great. Thank you so much for everyone that has given me the time and went through this short presentation with me. Thank you, and wishing everyone a good night.
All right. Thank you so much, Leanne. Thank you so much to all those who attended. We hope you did benefit from the presentation. And if you do want a workshop, a hands-on workshop, please don't forget to respond to the poll and we'll get back to you with the date and time for the hands-on work.
Great. Thank you.
All right, thanks.